I know you're gonna dig this.
Let's go!
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe. It's Business School Without the BS. Featuring optometrist turned entrepreneur, Dr. Robert Zellner, with USSBA Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark. Welcome to the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170.
Yes, it's Z and Clay, broadcasting from the box in the 918. 918. Business school in the topic today. Check the syllabus, it's getting you paid. Making a business boom is what we do. You can do it, let us show you. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. It's the Thrive Time Show, and away we go. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. And 3, 2, 1, here we go. Boom, 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 and boom. Welcome back to the box that rocks. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Big shout out to the New England Patriots continuing to win, and then winning more. We are so excited that you, Thrive Nation, have decided to join us today on today's broadcast. And today we are talking about the art of getting things done. This is going to be a 6-part series now, okay? So this is the 4th installment of this series, The Art of Getting Things Done. And it may very well become a 10-part series because we've had such a great feedback from listeners out there who have just struggled to get things done for years. They just struggle to get enough time in their schedule freed up to execute, to knock things out. So move 24 is you want to stop emotionally engaging with social media comments and reviews about your business. Now, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn and a partner with Greylock Partners, he said the fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already the way you want to be. So if you're around enormously successful people, you are going to notice that everybody that you are around who is enormously successful in business, as a general rule, there are some exceptions, they don't participate in social media the way that you think they do. They don't respond to comments and reviews. They don't lose hours upon hours of their day caught up in the constant pull of social media. So, John, you've worked with a lot of clients. You do a lot of the work behind the scenes to help clients get things done. Can you talk about how big of a problem it is for many people out there with social media and just being able to somehow pull themselves away from the great social media world without a little bit of mentoring?
Yeah, so social media, just as a general rule, is just a giant distraction for all people, whether that's a business owner or a employee or whatever it might be. People use that to escape, to focus on other things. But specifically, we're talking about how social media comments and reviews can really get in the way of productivity because, let's say somebody leaves you a negative review, whether it's true or not, a lot of clients will come in and it just wrecks their whole day because they're so focused on, oh my God, why would anybody say that about me?
So as an example, I tracked the totals for today and I put it on the show notes that we'll share with you Thrivers later. But as of 3:29, this is 3:21 I went in, 3:21 a.m. I just checked so I could have this information here for you. And I'll put it with you on today's show notes. It's also listed under move number 41 if you're scoring at home on the show notes here. So missed calls. I had 7 missed calls thus far today by 3:29 a.m. That means I missed something from 5 o'clock yesterday. I had 2 missed friend requests on Facebook. I had 6 missed Facebook messages, 27 Facebook notifications, 57 LinkedIn My Network notifications, which I don't go on LinkedIn at all, so I didn't even know that was a thing. I had 2 voice messages, 14 text messages I missed, 37 YouTube notifications, 31 Twitter notifications. That was 226 interruptions previous to 3:33 a.m. when I finished pulling my report of crap. So I had 226 missed potential interruptions. Now, that was before 3:33.
You answered all those, right?
Oh, I never respond to anything.
Wow.
And not only do I not, is we had somebody who, at the church, they actually said, hey, did I send you a Facebook message? What's going on with you? And I said, I don't respond to that. And they said, but you're on there. I said, I know, because I own businesses. I get how Facebook works. So I'm on there posting wins all day. But I'm not going to go in there and respond because I just don't care. Now, Steve, you're an entrepreneur. How have you either personally or how have you seen it where somebody has let negative comments, as John pointed out, on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or a bad review, how have you seen somebody wreck their day?
Well, the minute you respond, people are trying to get a rise out of you. So the minute that you respond, then they respond, and then it's like in this tit for tat thing where you're trying to defend yourself. And all I would say is, there's no winner in that. So don't try to defend yourself because you're already losing. And the more, it's kind of like when a kid's annoying you and they say, well, just ignore them, and they'll like leave you alone. But if you like tell them like, hey, stop, quit it. If you just ignore them, like they don't know. So that's what you got to do is you just got to ignore it, because otherwise now you're firing back, and now maybe there's some truth to what they're saying. Maybe that makes you mad too. And maybe there's something, right? So you just got to not engage with it.
I want to give all the Thrivers my tip for social media. Totally use it all you want for 1 minute a day. That's my tip. Just give yourself 1 minute, block out that minute, maybe 30 seconds on Twitter, 2 seconds on YouTube, 1 second on Facebook, and you're good. I mean, you can use it, all the ones you want. Just do it within a minute. You're good. And I've never actually met a single small business owner that's ever built a multi-million-dollar company by using social media as their way of doing so. There's like these exceptions, like there's these outliers. But I mean, if you talk about small business owners like a plumber, like a doctor, like a dentist, now someone like a Rustic Cuff, who that was her brand, was the culture, that's an outlier. And maybe that pertains to you, and maybe that's how you're going to grow your company. But I see people wasting 90% of their time, John, and making 1% of their income on social media, but spending 99% of their time on there engaging with those comments, my man.
I have a super move for social media. You can spend probably an hour once a year, and just schedule all of the posts that you want on Hootsuite.com. And you can actually link up all of your social media. And so you have to think about it, what you want to say, but then you can schedule those suckers out for a year, and you never have to look at it again.
Oh, that's a super move.
Super move.
Now, move 25. You want to take a 5-minute timeout before responding to anything serious in your life if you want to get things done. So as an example, people, the higher you up you go in the food chain, the more people have negative things to say about you. It just happens. So, Andy, I want to get your take because you played basketball professionally, and I'm sure you had the boo bird in the stands. There's always, if you're a speaker, there's always one guy who's kind of taunting you or being difficult. But in the stands, you're out there. What position did you play when you played professional?
I played shooting guard and power forward as well. It just depends how tall the defender was.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Okay, so you're 6'5". Could you shoot good from the outside, or were you more of a driver? How did you score?
I was more of what you call a slasher, so definitely driving a lot more. If they stood off me a little bit, I would shoot the ball, absolutely.
How many points a game did you average when you were last couple years in the professional?
In Europe, it was 18 points a game and about 9 rebounds.
Okay, so you did pretty well. And there's always the guy in the front who was always like, dang, boo! And they're always an American, by the way. You couldn't, there wouldn't be like an English person, you know.
Sure.
It was always me. Sorry.
I will never forget. Yeah, it was John. I will never forget the guy that took off his shoe and just banged it the whole game. He didn't even boo, but that replaced the boo. He would just bang the shoe the whole entire game.
It's one of my moves too, Clay.
It was very distracting. Yeah, Steve's move completely. It's very distracting.
When I'm on the phone and I'm trying to get a deal from I'm like, trying to convert him over to TLC to do a mortgage with me.
Right.
I just take my shoe off and I just bang it on the desk and I don't say anything.
I have a confession I want to make, but a funny story that pertains to letting someone get in your head. Because the principle here is you don't want to let people get in your head. So I want to ask you, though, first, how did you keep from losing your cool when someone was harassing you? Because we're trying to teach you this concept. You want to take a 5-minute timeout before responding to anything in your life, anything serious.
Sure.
How did you do it? How did you not freak out?
You really just block it out because of all the times and the hours in practice when nobody was around. You completely block it out because you have the confidence that you've worked on those things so many times that somebody banging their shoe or somebody talking trash in the stands doesn't matter because you put the work in. You
never pulled the Ron Artest move where you go up into the stands and beat a few people?
I didn't. I refrained from that.
I didn't know if that was a move.
Leave that to Ron Artest.
You're a better man than me.
I actually got beaten by a professional basketball player one time.
Is this a real story?
Wow.
All right.
But it's believable, isn't it? Currington, you got beat up in the stands.
It'd be cool if it happened. No, but this is what happened is, and I was going to Dassel-Cokato High School. We used to play against a team called Annandale, and I played boys basketball, obviously guys basketball, but the girls basketball team from Annandale, they had a very good player, and she could shoot three-pointers. Well, when she would inbound the ball right by us, we would dress up. We called ourselves super fans, and like 10 of us would just dress up, and my goal was to make them cry, the women. So what I would do is I'd find one person I would pick on the entire game. So I don't remember her name, but I know she was number 25, and I got my little, I got my flyer rolled up, so I could use this kind of like a miniature megaphone, and all of us directed our attention. So every time she would get the ball, or she threw the ball in and she was by us, we would just relentlessly talk to her. And every time she was a 3-point shooter. So she'd get the ball and we go, shoot it now! Shoot it! You are open! Just the entire game. And then when she would shoot it, we're like, you're a ball hog! Your teammates hate you! Look at the way 32 just looked at you! Did you see that? I saw she can't look at you! And so the whole time we're trying to create gossip, but the people on our team were legitimately mad that she shot so much. And I'm like, do you see number 8? Number 8 wants the ball! You freaking... And we're just the whole time, her dad's across the stands. He's not very happy.
I wonder why.
But she's on your... She goes to your school,
this
right?
This is Annandale, a team we're playing against.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh my God.
And so she's their best player. By about, I don't know, the second quarter, she's looking at us like a lot, running down the court looking. When she scores, she made a shot, she looks at us, and I'm like, oh, look at us. Just keep looking at us. You're feeding the monster. Well, by the end of like the third quarter, she's crying. And then the guys are like, dude, you should stop. I'm like, no, this is war.
It just kept going. It just kept going.
But it was like a deal where we got in her head. And when you get to the highest levels of competition, there are people that want to get in your head.
Yep.
They just do. And it's actually a move they'll do is they'll try to create infighting and dissension and deception and problems. So I just encourage you, if you're listening to today's show and you are finding yourself perpetually in fights, stop engaging in them. If you have a bad thing that happens and someone calls you and starts dropping F-bombs on your phone, Steve, you can relate to this. I can relate to this. People do that. You want to just take a 5-minute timeout and go, you know what? I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes. And then just think about what you're going to say before you say it. Because if not, it gets dramatic and you don't have time for the drama. You just don't have time for the drama. And Romans 12:19 from the Bible says, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. So basically, they're going to get theirs from the Lord. From the Lord. It's kind of, I mean, seriously, don't try to take all the vengeance in your own hands. Now, move number 26. Don't allow yourself to be guilted into doing things that you don't want to do.
Oh, yeah.
John, I'm going to start with you on this. You see clients all the time who say, I can't update my website. I can't manage my sales team. I can't do XYZ 1, 2, 3 because I have to serve on this board, because I have to do this activity. And you're realizing you don't have to do it, but they almost feel, John, like they have to because they were guilted into doing it.
Yeah. You see that all the time. Well, clients they'll use other things for excuses on why they can't work on their business and grow their business. And we all do that. We all, we'll find something so we can put something else off. And just as humans, we do that.
I will say this. There's nobody who's going to call you and go, John, you've got to put it on your schedule to optimize that website, unless you have a boss. So if you own your own business, no one calls me and says, you've got to write that book. There's a huge sense of urgency. You have to write that book. If you don't write that book, you're going to let us down. Nor does anyone say, good job when you finish it.
True. Right. I just put it on my agenda and say deep dive 14 hours.
Deep dive. There it is.
And then I never do it.
I mean, it's so important that you don't allow yourself to be guilted. I'm just telling you, this is so important. You have to learn to say no to things. Warren Buffett, he once said, the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything.
Yep.
But I encourage you to say yes to one thing. Go to thrivetimeshow.com right now and subscribe to the podcast and claim your free copy of the Start Here ebook. You're listening to the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Stay tuned.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. 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 Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up. I'm wearing Cuban links. Designer mix.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show on Talk Radio 1170.
I know you're gonna dig this.
I want to welcome everybody to the Thrive Time Show. You're listening to the sounds of a business coach. Welcome everybody to the Thrive Time Show. I've got 5 kids and now you know. See, I was born on November 5th of 1980, a day after Reagan beat Jimmy Carter, baby. And from that point, my mom and dad was out to save me, a Christian family, and that's the way it was meant to be. See, I didn't see the light until my son could see, but I learned to rock the mic in the high school scene. A young DJ with the $1 million dream, numb to the pain that rejection brings. So I, like a sod farmer, sweated for that green. Now I'm on your radio with the thank you and please. Share this podcast with a friend or enemy. Now let's talk some business from Clay to Z. Boom. Aw, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Now, typically, it is ecstasy when Z is next to me, and he is here. But he's out expanding his vast entrepreneurial empire today, and so we must push on with great enthusiasm and great momentum. We must try to replicate the aura of Dr. Z, and we're talking about the art of getting things done. And we're moving on to move number 26, which is don't allow yourself to be guilted into doing things that you don't want to do. Eric Chupp, you're a business coach, and you've helped a lot of your clients to have massive success. Just the other day, I believe the folks at Keystone Harbor were celebrating a massive win.
Massive win. Their rental boat fleet that we helped them market through the summer, they talked to their main competition out on the lake, had a good friendly conversation with them, but towards the end, the guy said, "Oh, by the way, whatever you guys are doing about these boat rentals, you killed my summer. I didn't rent a boat all summer."
Nice.
So
Killing
it was
the competition.
Good win. Killing the competition. When it comes to this not being guilted into things, this is a huge problem with nice people, right? People that just want to go along to get along. And there's a Tim Ferriss quote, the guy that wrote the 4-Hour Workweek. He says that a person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations they're willing to have. If you're a nice person, you got to have these uncomfortable conversations to you. Just say no. Just say no and move on. It doesn't have to be an emotional thing.
I know for me, the stuff that I get asked to do all the time that I don't want to do and I'm not going to do never ends. And so, as an example, I don't drive fast through our parking lots. I don't, because I just don't. There are speed bumps that I typically go over on the way to the work. I do it. But you know what? Occasionally, I'll go around the speed bump and I'll skip over one bump and I'll go through the parking lot, and I'll go through that. And then I got told by the folks at One Fire that that's not the move. You shouldn't actually cut through the parking lot. And so because we shouldn't cut through the parking lot, I decided to not cut through the parking lot. But there's other people on my team who haven't had that message. They didn't know. They didn't know you shouldn't cut through the parking lot. And so every day there's probably a new company, a new customer, a new somebody who cuts through the parking lot and goes around the speed bumps because, Steve, it's a vast empty parking lot that separates the golf place. What's the name of the golf place?
Flying T.
Flying T from our offices. And I bet you there's not a day that goes by that somebody who I don't know and I've never met is going to violate the rules of the parking lot, where they're not going to go over each and every speed bump methodically.
Right.
I am not going to take time out of my schedule to host a seminar with new customers and employees about how to drive a car because I don't want to. But there are certain people that think I should, and I'm not going to. I am not going to take time out of my schedule to sit there and talk to an adult man or woman about how to drive a car in a parking lot. I'm just not going to. And so I'm not going to do it. And so even though certain parties may want me to take time out of my schedule to do it, I'm not going to do it. That's just an example of something I've been asked to do. Is there any way you could sit down with your team and educate them on driving? No, because they're going to go through other parking lots. And if a parking lot's vastly open, empty, I get it how if you're a 45-year-old man who has a solid mind or a 45-year-old woman or a 25-year-old, how it makes sense to not go over the speed bumps. And I get it. And I guess if it's not going to be improved, that's okay. But that's something where I've been asked that. I've also been asked to volunteer to speak at certain organizations for lunch, and I never leave the building. I just not going to leave the building during the day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave the building during the day. And Chup, you see this all the time. People will, they'll ask, hey, could you meet for lunch or dinner?
Yeah.
And I never leave the building.
No, these are booked up. I'm all booked up.
And I don't think I don't think I'm doing that though to intentionally be a jerk. I just want to go home and see my kids. And so
your life is purposeful, right? And you've set a schedule and you have to follow it, because if you start deviating from that path, that's a slippery slope you get on, and then you get used to not following your calendar. So you have to have that in your life.
But does it not irritate people?
Oh yeah.
And people think that just because they call you, or just because they email you, or just because they text you, or just because they reach out, that you're now required to respond, and you're not.
Now, John, you've seen when purposeful people are intentional about not responding to everything, it irritates people. So what's typically the reaction that you see? Because you've seen the reaction of people who just don't get it, that we don't leave the building.
Yeah, they don't understand it, because they think that you should do, like what Steve's saying is, if they ask you to do something, now all of a sudden you're obligated to do it for some reason.
And in their time.
And when you tell them no, like, it just really angers them, and it makes them hurt on like a deep spiritual level.
Like
And
they're in the corner and they're like,
but what's great is you do that enough times to the same people, and then they just stop asking you to do things.
Well, here's another example. There's a group of guys I know very well, and there's probably 6 or 7 guys, and each one of the guys have asked me about 5 or 6 times to go camping. And every time they ask, "Can you go camping?" I always say, "No, I can't go camping." And they go, "Well, why not?" And I'll say, "Because I'm just not a camper. I don't." They go, "No, you really don't know. Like the Illinois River, it's so fun to float down the river. It's so exciting to go to the mountains. It's just awesome. It's majestic. You should go." And it's almost like all of a sudden, though, people who are not passionate about any area of their lives
are passionate about floating down the river.
Right. They're not passionate about doing sales for their own business, but they are passionate about getting me to go. So now every time you see them, they're like, "No, you really should go. You really," and I'm like, "I'm not going to go." And then finally we have to the awkward conversation where I'm like, even if we believed that the second coming of Christ was going to happen at that campground, it would still be doubtful whether I would go because I don't camp.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And but people,
I guess I'll miss out on the coming of Jesus Christ because I'm not going to go camping.
Well, the reason why you have to take such a hard stand on this is like what Chup was saying is like once you open that door to be guilted into things, it's a slippery slope and it never ends because like it'll keep growing. It'll keep. Oh well, this one more thing.
How about this photography company? I used to have a photography company, and brides used to love to call on the week of the wedding, saying, "Hey, I have an appointment at 4. Is there any way we could move that to 6?" And I used to always say, "No, we're actually all booked out there." And the reason why is because I wanted to go home and see my wife. Because I was
Wait
already.
a minute, come on.
No, but you, Chup, you've seen it where we've had schedulers get like overwhelmed with constant rescheduling because people know this person's going to let me reschedule all the time.
Well, if you do that, then like 70% of the people will reschedule, and then your schedule is completely screwed up. So.
And Chup, you've seen that with people loading in equipment. People say, "Can I load in at a different time?"
Yeah. No, you cannot.
Dude, you know what I do? I flip it. I reschedule their reschedule.
back to the original time.
Oh, yeah, that's how I get them.
I got to reschedule that back to the
I'm like,
original time.
yeah, we can totally do that. And then I call them 10 minutes later, and I'm like, hey, we need to reschedule back to 4.
And we come back from the break, we're going to be talking more about the art of getting things done. And specifically move number 27 is you need to stop buying things that you don't need. It is so important that you quit purchasing things. You every time you buy something, it comes with a responsibility. You have to insure it, maintain it, fix it, learn about it. In fact, the most happy people typically buy the least amount of things. So no matter how much money you have, well, you can have a Lamborghini, but the point is you shouldn't be buying everything every day all the time because if you do, you're never going to be done maintaining those things. Consumerism does not lead to happiness. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. Today we're talking about the art of getting things done. Go to thrivetimeshow.com and subscribe to the podcast. And if you love yourself, go download the Start Here book for free at thrivetimeshow.com.
Live, local, and now, broadcasting from the center of the universe and the Thrive15.com world headquarters, it's the Thrive Time Show.
We're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody! Come on, Snoop-a-loop!
All right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. It is the Thrive Time Show on your radio. And today we're talking about the art of getting things done. Have you ever found yourself so busy but not getting anything done? Well, I think a lot of what's happening is you get so used to being in the habit of doing something that you just always drive to work that way. You always do your Saturday that way. You always spend your Friday nights that way. You always engage in conversations that way. Well, if you always do things the same way, you can't get frustrated with those results. But if you want to change the results, you need to learn how to become a more productive person. And so I am teaching you the 66 moves that Z and I use. And you might not agree with the ethics of all of these things, but they're the moves that we use to get more done. Now, if you don't want to get a lot done or you don't want to get as much done as we do, you don't need to maybe implement these moves. But move number 27 is you need to stop buying things. Dave Ramsey says financial peace isn't the acquisition of stuff. It's learning to live on less than you make so you can give money back and have money to invest. You can't win until you do this. Dave Ramsey he is an American businessman. He's a radio talk show host, best-selling author, very, very wise in the area of personal finance. So I'm going to start with Andy on this. So Andy, you have been blessed to have high-income jobs, and now you're obviously a business coach here with the Thrive Time Show, and you have Rise Consults, which is a medical consulting company, and things are going well for you. And you obviously have a nice home and you have a nice car, but how do you draw the line in terms of when personal spending needs to stop? Because I think there's people out there that earn and spend, and they keep spending more, so they have to earn more, and that gets in the cycle where they're not ever really happy because they're just on that treadmill. Talk to me about how do you personally, at the Matherin house, how do you decide when to stop spending?
Sure. I think there's a big habit over here of going out to eat a lot, which can really eat up some of your finances right there. So just cooking at home, is a big thing. My wife enjoys that, and that definitely saves us a lot of money there. We're not eating out every single day. We try to just be careful. We have the 5 children right there, so we're very aware of that. We know that there's weddings coming up in the future. There's college possibly.
Are you guys in a contest, you and Matherin, on kids?
Yes. Well,
is that what it is?
We copy everything they do for the most part, so that's why we have 5.
Well, I had a heck of a time at the Steve Martin concert last Saturday, but Dr. Z upgraded us to a suite. Vanessa and I, so we're staying in a nice suite there.
Nice.
And he actually, and Eric Chubb will come back on after the break and will explain to us, but Dr. Zellner claims that as an optometrist that he has the capacity, the ability to reverse a vasectomy. He just said he needed a blunt butter knife, and then he could make it happen.
Oh,
yeah.
He's a doctor. If he said it,
and sterile. Sounds very
it
sterile.
doesn't matter. He's a doctor.
John, were you at work the day he removed the staples out of Tim Redmond's back?
No. Well, I mean, I'm sure I was at work, but I did not physically see
Did you see that? Steve, were you there?
No.
Again, this was at 16th.
Someone stapled him?
This was at 16th in Boston, and Tim had surgery on his back or something. And Dr. Zellner loves to just joke about his capacities as a doctor because he's an optometrist. And he says, Tim, I could remove those stitches. And Tim goes, from my back? I mean, I've got to go, because he had to go see, when you get surgery, you have to go see a specialist to remove these things because they're like, and he goes, I'll remove them for you. And Tim is like, let's do it. And I'm going, what is going on? So next thing I know, I'm not kidding. Tim Redmond is shirtless in our office upstairs. It's probably in the history folder. He's shirtless in the office upstairs, and Dr. Z is removing his staples, and he tells one of our team members, he goes, go get me some rubbing alcohol, which we don't have in the office. And he removed all of his, I'm not kidding, he removed all of his stitches. So I think he's actually secretly wanting to get into the reverse vasectomy business.
To give it a shot. Love it.
I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. So anyway, if that surgery, if that procedure were something I would do, Steve, then I could have a 6th kid. But for right now, I'm personally capped out, my friend. It's not impossible.
Well, I would say, the point says stop buying things you don't need. And for some people, you might say, stop having children that you don't need. I mean, you can only have so many. I mean, come on.
Steve, are you in favor of having a small family? Are you kind of in that whole? Are you part of the Chinese government, or what's your?
No,
and we need our kids.
No,
okay?
I just had the second kid I had was a daughter, and Clay, I know that you have 4 of them. So
yeah,
my wife said I would have more kids, but I'm afraid I'm going to have another daughter, and I don't want to have another daughter. And I don't know how you do it because I have one daughter and I want to put her back. It's like, take her, put her back. I tell her all the time, Emma, get back in your womb. Get back in your womb.
Get in your womb. And we're going to have a separate show after this show called Parenting a Daughter and the impossibility of putting your child back into your womb.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Z can do it with a dull butter knife.
We won't be here for that show, but move number 28, commit to simplicity. John, you see this all the time with businesses. They make very complicated workflows, super complicated systems, and it's a creeping tendency for every business to try to add more and more things. I think every entrepreneur who loves your business, you love your product, you want to make it better and better. You always want to add more things. But a lot of times the things you make don't get used, John. You're making tools that none of the employees use. John, talk to me about how to fight the creeping tendency to keep adding more and more new things.
Well, so it's always new ideas that create new things. So everybody wants to, they obviously want to make their business better. So by doing that, they're trying to think of new ideas that they can implement to do that. So then they have this idea, and it's a great idea, and they really want to do this, and they're very passionate about it. And so then you have to spend all of this time, making that work. And then by that time, you have another new idea, and let's focus on that one instead and forget about that old one.
That's what's great about, Tip Top K9, Clay.
Oh, these guys
is
are
their
awesome.
system is just simple, and they're not trying to like reinvent the wheel. If you watch the video that Ryan talks about,
yes,
my dog would sit, but he would just run out the door when the door opened. So he learned how to like train his own dog.
That story
Right.
is phenomenal. Tip Top K9.
Yeah.
These guys have built a proven system to train dogs, which is, that's pretty remarkable. My dog won't stop jumping up on
And
me.
I guess it's not complicated, right? It's simple.
It's scalable. They found a way to do it. And they are now producing gross revenue that is higher than that of many medical clinics we work with. And they actually have just opened up their second and third. They just signed agreements for their second and third locations in Boise, Idaho. And I believe they have one going out in Tennessee and one going in Fargo and maybe one in Oklahoma City. I mean, these guys are rocking, but you know how they're doing it is it's the same system over and over. When you go to Subway, it's the same, Stephen, you pointed out, it's the same system over and over.
Yep.
Once you nail it, you want to scale it. Remember, simplicity scales, but complexity fails.
But don't scale the fail. That's what Clay says, right?
And keep making calls.
You're failing.
I mean, that's pretty simple right there.
Just keep it
making
going.
Calls. You'd be surprised at how many people out there, are too scared of rejection, too scared of denial, that they won't make those calls. But if you keep making calls, it's going to happen for you.
Now, Andy Mather, I want to ask you this here. In basketball, you're a good free throw shooter. Why can't you change your free throw shooting philosophy every game?
Sure, if you change it halfway through the season, you're in a bit of trouble there, just because you've practiced it so many times over that if all of a sudden you change it up, that could definitely diminish the percentages.
So if you like tap your foot and then like spin it 3 times and then grab it and then don't add a thing.
Thrive Nation, anybody out there who gets good at anything, anybody who learns to master anything, learns how to do the same thing over and over until they can't get it wrong. I would ask yourself rhetorically, in what way are you overcomplicating your business? My name's Clay Clark. You're listening to the Thrive Time Show. Stay tuned. I can feel it. I can feel you staying tuned. I can feel something in the air tonight.
Woo! Yes.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe. It's Business School Without the BS. Featuring optometrist turned entrepreneur, Dr. Robert Zellner, with USSBA Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark.
Thrive Nation, welcome back into the conversation as the Thrive Time Show on your radio. If you've ever struggled to have time freedom, this is the show for you. Steve, time freedom, is it not a challenge?
I have time freedom right now, actually.
John, is time freedom not a challenge?
It's a huge challenge.
Chup, is time freedom not an issue?
It is a huge issue as well as a huge challenge.
Now, I'm gonna talk about a client who's no longer a client, who has made millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, every time I'd meet with this guy, every single one of his meetings was about the same thing. And what he wanted to talk about was, how can I free up time? And the sad part was he had the money to be free, but he always wanted to do ridiculous website updates. And John, you know who I'm talking about. This guy would always want to do endless website updates, endless print pieces, endless videos, endless podcasts, endless things, always just in a perpetual wanting to stay busy. But they would always say they wanted time freedom, but at the end of the day, they just wanted to stay busy, or at least subconsciously they did. And it's I just encourage you today to ask yourself, do you actually want to have time freedom? Because if you don't, that's fine. If you want to stay perpetually busy doing a big to-do list of things that don't matter, then stay busy. But if you want to have time freedom, you've got to commit to simplicity. John, I want to get your take on this. If a client came to you and said, so here's, you can go ahead and hit me with the Wisdom baseball bat. There's a Wisdom baseball bat, and if you hit me with it, I learned, but it's kind of a painful, but it's whoosh. If you could just hit me right in the face, just crush me in the skull about simplicity, I'm ready to do it. You don't have to worry about my feelings. I just want to know. Go ahead, let me have it. Hit me in the junk with the Wisdom bat. Go for it.
Well, okay, so what I would say is instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, just use what already works, right?
Come on now.
So, like, everybody wants to come up with this crazy new, like, innovative product and, see if it works.
Yeah,
And
I
instead of
got a wheel. It's an oval.
But
You feel like you're floating down the road.
if the goal is time freedom, right, then find what works, or look at somebody else that already knows what works, duplicate that, and then stick with that system so your business is working. Then you can work on your time freedom.
Well, I'd rather focus on innovation. Chup, I don't want to do what works. You know what I'm saying?
We gotta
'Cause
innovate.
I'm more of an innovator. I'm more of what I would call I'm more of a. I go to the coffee houses a lot, and I have a bunch of ideas, a lot of apps.
I grind at the coffee house. You see what I did there?
I am,
wheels.
I am not an app developer, nor do I know anybody. But that doesn't freaking stop Tom Brady, does it? Remember Tom Brady's app, the one he made where... Back to you, Chup.
Yes. Well, one thing that when we're talking about committing to simplicity, if you're in management or you're owning a business, I see this a lot where people want to start to automate everything as they get a little bit of success and they start hiring more people and they want to put this crazy complex software in place. And the thing is, your employees are never going to learn how to use all of the functions, so you're going to spend all this money on an expensive software. And the other thing about that is they're going to use that as an excuse to not get their job done.
But you don't understand. All the employees I have in Boston are freaking awesome. I swear to God, we are wicked awesome. We can just get it done.
I bet you are.
You don't freaking understand my brother Danny. He can memorize anything.
Danny.
You know what's impressive about this point is, Chup, you actually tied in move number 27 and 28 together. Don't buy things that you don't need.
Exactly.
And keep things simple. Oh, it's so nice.
Now, I want to read you a notable quotable from Albert Einstein, who allegedly did some things. He actually
who's this?
Who
Albert.
is it?
He
Albert
doesn't know
what?
anything.
True story. He is the reason why we're not speaking German.
Winston?
The-
The bagel guy.
The Germans were developing the atom bomb and were far ahead of us. And Albert Einstein pointed out to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, "Hey, we probably should get started." And they're like, "What?" He goes, "No, I know these people. I remember I'm from Germany. I fled there because I'm Jewish to escape certain death. I was their leading scientist. I'm telling you, they know how to do it.
We need to have a sense of urgency.
We should probably get started." And they're going, "Well, I don't know. Do you guys want to go golfing?"
Innovation.
And then the bomb hits Hawaii. All of a sudden, now we're like,
We're in.
We're in to do this. And he says, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Isaac Newton piles on. Says, truth is ever to be found in simplicity and not in multiplicity and confusion of things. Steve Jobs. Who's Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs says, that's been one of my mantras. Focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. Someone says, buddy, when you talk that fast, I can't write it down. And I said, listen, hey, I'm working with you, okay? So let's do it again. That's been one of my mantras. Focus and simplicity. Someone else says speed up. I'm saying, stop it. I'm trying to do a radio show here. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. Somebody else says, how many people are in the studio? Who are you talking to? Are these voices in your mind? What is wrong with you?
They're outside the door.
Oh, they're outside the door. Okay.
Hordes of people.
Tom Peters, best-selling author. I love his book, The Search of Excellence. That book right there is a book I don't talk about a lot because I don't think the average person could handle reading that book. I think you read it and you go, I don't want to read it. And then about chapter 2, you go, yes. Chapter 3, you go, I'm riding this train, yeah. And then in chapter 4, you realize only successful people have read that book. If you want to go out to dinner with a CEO, he's read that book. And you realize, I can't read, it's not a best-selling, like in terms of you can't reference that book when talking to like
What's
your
it called
average friend.
again?
It's called In Search of Excellence. And one of the things he points out in the book is that, just as an example, I am very, 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 John and I are probably in the top 10% in the world of search engine optimization. I'd say not top 10%, probably top 1% of search engine optimization experts, where people from all over the world used to hire me to come and speak to their company because I'm awesome at it, because I've spent a lot of time on it. A ton of time. I've read all the books, and then when you're not spending time on it, I'm spending time on it. And then when you're not working on it, John and I just hired another consultant, Bruce Clay's firm, the guy who wrote Search Engine for Dummies, to educate us yet again. It's a never-ending pursuit of excellence.
Not only have we read all the books, we actually wrote a book.
We did. We wrote a book.
Search Engine Manifesto.
That's all right.
I think there's a
it's
guy
a
named Jonathan
manifesto.
Kelly's name
Yeah,
on
there's a
that.
guy in there.
That book is available right now for free. You can download it. It's part of the Start Here book. It's available for free download at thrivetimeshow.com. And the reason why I say this, though, is Tom Peters points out anybody who's awesome at something just does the same thing over and over and over until they become the best.
Like shooting free throws, right? Like we were talking with Andy earlier.
Well, as an example, Michael Jordan, as great as he was, he went and thought, you know what, I was very good in high school at baseball, and I'm going to go ahead and try to play professionally. And as great as he was, he realized that I can only hit like with a 200 batting average at the pro level, which is still better than the average person through just athleticism and skill. But you can't be great at everything. So you want to be awesome at one thing. You want to dominate that thing. And he says almost all quality improvement comes via simplification of design, manufacturing, layout, processes, and procedures. You know, Taco Bueno, they didn't say, man, things are going so well here at Taco Bueno. Why don't we open up a Jiffy Lube?
Right.
Because they just keep opening up more Taco Buenos.
That's like LaMode Cleaners. Same thing. That's why they keep opening up LaMode Cleaners and not taco stands. 9
locations. You don't see LaMode out there.
Such a big
LaMode
deal.
and Jiffy Lube. Now move 29. Avoid the physical and emotional presence of chronically late and emotional people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
my favorite.
gonna go
Take
with
him
John.
out back.
Joel Osteen says you cannot. This is what Joel Osteen would say. He says you cannot expect to live a positive life if you hang with negative people. That's how Joel Osteen would say. He goes, you cannot expect to live a positive life if you hang out with negative people.
Your impression of him is
All
spot on.
Joel.
Well,
that
it's
was good.
kind of like Kirk, Captain Kirk meets Joel Osteen. I'll work on it. I'll get better at it. But anyway,
It's,
so
Kirk-
Better.
We'll try it
It's
again.
improvement.
Kirk Osteen.
John, walk us through this.
Yeah, so the thing about people that are always late is somehow they want to put that now on you because they came into the meeting late. You should continue on your meeting a little longer to make up the fact that they were late. That's just one of those people. Then the emotional people, oh my gosh, these are my favorite. They're like
Everything's on fire.
Yeah, everything's on fire. I want to whine about every single thing, and then now somehow my problems are your problems. We share problems, and let's talk about it.
What I want to do is we had a person we hired that I think made it for 2 weeks.
I knew this person.
We'll call this. I'm going to call this person White Pants. And I want you to share the story.
Everybody's talking about my white pants.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
wow.
Wow. After this, Chup is doing a live concert.
Everybody's talking about his white pants.
White pants.
White pants.
White pants
Diverse
on.
pants. Why can't we have diverse pants?
Yeah, why can't they just be pants, guys?
Why does it
can't
always
they
have
just
to
be
be
pants?
That's true.
Why does it
Right?
have
Okay,
Why do we have to-
I'll admit fault in this. Is my fault.
Yeah, it's just
the pants
pants.
should be technicolored dream pants.
Those pants were offensive for many people of all different races, colors, nationalities, and I'm tired of it.
I'm not actually going to wear pants anymore as a protest.
I'm flipping the script. I'm putting on black pants.
When we come back, we're going to talk about white pants and hiring emotional people. This person, they somehow made it through our group interview process. They were a bad hire, and I think they made it about a week and a half before they were attacked by the Cobra and fired for being an idiot. Stay tuned. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio. If you are looking for the Start Here book, the world's best business book, go to thrivetimeshow.com and get your copy today.
Start here.